Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from Deep Purple, Roger Glover. The band has two new live collections coming out, From the Setting Sun in Wacken and To the Rising Sun in Tokyo, both out September 18th. Joining me to talk about Deep Purple and his band, or the band he's a member of, is Tommy Henriksen of the Alice Cooper Group. Is that a good introduction?
I love it.
There
It's
you
fine
go.
with me. I really like that. You got my name right. It's fun. Henriksen. There you
Hendrickson.
go.
So what's fun about Deep Purple? Their last album that came out, Now What? I first heard about that from you.
Yeah, that was one of those things that Bob was working on, and Bob was telling me about it, and I've always been a fan of Deep Purple, and I've always been a fan of Roger Glover as a producer, also. So with him and Bob working together, I thought that was really cool. And what the whole thing was, I just didn't have any time to get around to doing all this stuff. You know what I mean? Because most of the times when Bob would work on a record, I'll work on a lot of stuff with him.
Right.
And just the Alice Cooper thing, we were on tour so much that I couldn't get around to it. But that record is a really great record.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny that you mentioned Bob Ezrin because I asked Roger about that. I said, listen, Roger, you've produced an incredible amount of records for an incredible amount of great bands, including Rainbow.
Yeah.
And do you sit there with Bob Ezrin and go, okay, let the master take over, let him show me some stuff, let me learn? Or do you sit there as a producer yourself and go, oh, I wouldn't have done that. Oh, I wouldn't. And Roger gave me a great answer. So, sit back and listen for that in the interview. Now, you also have done some production and you've worked on the new Hollywood Vampires album that Alice is putting out on September 11th. But I just want to quickly ask you about your last album, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. What a fun album. I mean, wow. It's just,
Yeah, that record, it was one of those things. I wasn't inspired to write. I don't know. It's like one of those things when you're inspired, write for other people's easier as opposed to writing for yourself. I've always loved every genre of music because I've grown up through pretty much every genre of music. So the thing is, I wanted to put a record together, which I like, you know, electronic music. I like rock music. I love punk music. You know what I mean? I love metal. I love great beats. And I just put a record together. I was like, you know what, man, I'm just going to have fun with this thing. And I'll put it out with no expectations at all. You know what I mean? I was going to put it out for fun, and that was it. And then I found KTEL Records in Switzerland, which was even more funnier, where I was like, KTEL Records is still around? That's KTEL. And I met the guy who owns KTEL. And we just put it out, and it's been doing pretty well. I mean, for just an independent type thing, you know what I mean? Like, I make my own videos. I have this kid, this guy named Jason Christopher, make these videos, and we do them for practically nothing. And and I made the record in my bedroom.
wow. But for fans that don't know, they think, oh, he's just the guitarist in Alice Cooper. You had your own hits back in the day. You had a hit single called I See the Sun, which was what, number 30, 34 on the
It,
top 40 back in
it,
99?
what happened with that whole thing? It was one of those record company things. I got signed by the president of the label, this guy named Gary Gersh, and he said, "You're going to be an international pop star. You're the next Peter Gabriel, Bruce Springsteen, the whole record company shit that they throw at you." And I was all just to go, "All right, let's just see what happens." I'm like, "Oh, really?" But and what happened was he got fired like 6 months later. They put out my single. The thing's doing amazing, and all of a sudden, the radio guy, this guy named Phil, I forgot Phil's last name, he gets fired. He calls
Wow.
me up. He says we were on the right path. He says, but this thing's over. And I was like, you kidding me? And then this guy came in, this guy named Roy Lott, who was a lawyer, an attorney, took over Capitol Records at the time, and he just was just like, I don't know what to do with you. You're not rock enough, you're not pop enough, you're not alternative enough, you're in this weird thing. And I remember this quote. He's like, you need to decide whether you want to be the Backstreet Boys or Third Eye Blind. And I looked at him and I was like, well, I'm none of those, And I love the Backstreet Boys and Third Eye Blind, but I'm not nothing like that. So it's like, he's like, well, then you probably got to get off the label then. And that's what I did. So I got off the label, and that was it.
Yeah, and you also had a top 5 single back in 95 with POL called Stupid.
Yeah,
Man.
that was another same thing. Same thing happened to me on that one too. We're at, who was running that label? What's his name? Irving Azoff. So Giant Records. We got a top 5 single at radio. We're on tour with Bush, Farouk, Salt. We're doing amazing. This punk band I had, and it was like a fun band. Another one of those fun things. I couldn't even believe we got a record deal, let alone have like a single that was doing great. This thing's doing great. Doug Thaler's managing us. I'll never forget it. We couldn't get any tours after that. And then he called him and said, Tommy, come on home. It's over. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, label just went under. And that was another one. It happened to me twice. You know?
Bit of a bad luck, I guess. Third time's a charm. But I do want to speak
Well,
quickly about one album that you're on that people might not know. That Doro's Force Majeure, probably her crowning jewel. Maybe people will debate me on that, but one of her best albums, and you got a chance to play on that too.
well, that was one of those things when I joined Warlock in 1987.
Right.
There was this producer named Joey Ballin who produced the records, and a writer guy from New York, and this guitar player Tommy Bowen, also from New York. They pulled me in, and on that record, All We Are record, whatever, I forgot what that record was called.
The one just before?
The one with All We Are on it. What was that called, that record?
The Warlock record. Hold on, I will look
What
it
is
up.
that record called? Triumph and Agony. That's
Right,
it.
that's it.
Triumph and Agony. That record, everyone thought I played on it. I didn't play on it because it was already recorded. It was played by a guy named Skylar Deal, bass player in New York, great bass player. And Cozy Powell played drums on that record, So I was brought in after the record was made, and they just put my picture on the album, and everyone thought I played bass on it, but I didn't play bass on it until the next record. Then we were on tour, and then the manager, this piece of shit named Alex Grove, he says, I want to fire the whole band. And I was like, why? He's like, because we're going to change the name and make it Doro, And then they fired the whole band, and they kept me. And I said, I know a couple guys that can do this, in a heartbeat. And I called up my buddy John Devon at the time. His name's Levin. He played in Docking. And Bobby Rondinelli, he played in Rainbow, And then those guys came in. We did the record, and I wrote like a bunch of songs on the record. And that's where I learned about publishing and stuff like that. When you have a manager who's a crook, you know what I mean? You don't know this stuff, and you're a young guy, and you're signing away your publishing, you know what I mean, to a manager, which is really illegal, and he tells me, oh, you need to sign these papers for me, blah, 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 blah. So I don't have a fucking attorney. I'm a young guy. I sign these papers. Mitch, that this guy, this is what I learned. That record went on to sell over, worldwide, I think 1 million copies. I've never seen a dime on that. And I've wrote, I got credited, I think, for 5 songs, but I wrote 8 songs on the record.
Wow.
I haven't seen a dime until I've met this guy. I was working with this guy named Raymond. He's this really big German artist, and we were writing songs together. And he said to me, he's like, were you in Warlock? And I was like, yeah. And he says, you guys sold some records. I was like, I never saw a dime. And he's like, I'm going to hook you up with an attorney. So he hooks me up with an attorney. It's just recently, maybe 6 years ago.
Right.
And they tracked all the money down, and this guy spent all the money in a time period where, you know what I mean, you can't sue him. So my fault, my bad, you know what I mean? But you learn from that stuff, as you get older. You go, man, not everyone's honest. Most people are crooks, which kind of sucks. Because, I always say, man, once again, the human race let me down, But you always got to look past that and go, okay, I learned something from that. I won't make that mistake again. I'll make another mistake, but not that one ever again, So,
which,
anyway.
It's put you in this position that you're in, though, now with Alice and the Hollywood Vampires. You're keeping your head above water, and you know what to look out for. But you mentioned Bobby Rondinelli, and I'll just bring it back to Roger Glover for a second.
Yeah.
Bobby was in Rainbow. And we talk about this album that Roger produced called Straight Between the Eyes. And the reason we spoke about it really is a great record. The reason we spoke about it is because it was recorded up here in Quebec at Le Studio in Morin Heights. Unfortunately, the studio is in receivership, haven't paid their bills, their tax bill, the whole thing. It was seized, and it's going to go up to auction. But Yeah, we spoke with Roger about that and working at the studio and working on that album. So, one of those great stories. We also speak about the song Smoke on the Water, the two new albums. Why don't we listen to Roger right now? How does that sound?
Great. Love it.
Here is Roger Glover.
Hello, Mitch.
Hello, Roger. How
Yes,
are
I
you?
am.
Good. Pleasure to speak with
I
you.
am.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, you don't know that yet.
I will soon. Lots of great stuff to talk about, actually. The two upcoming live releases and an incredible history of rock. Let me start with From the Setting Sun in Wacken. First of all, talk to me a little bit about playing that festival. I mean, it is sort of the premier festival in Europe.
It's certainly one of the most well-attended and heaviest and industrial strength heavy metal festivals there is in Europe. Gained an enormous reputation, and it was, an event that is unforgettable. It was so big and so well organized, and we were made so welcome. And I must admit to feeling slightly out of place because we're not in the same bracket as these people, with enormous shows and fire and
Right.
very dark and heavy metal and riff and thunder. We're we're a bit more. Well, I wouldn't say tamer than that because we're not tame, but we're definitely hard rock as opposed to heavy metal. To me, there's a difference there. And so, faced with an audience like that was a good challenge for us to sort of hook up with people who maybe have never seen us before, as I said on the liner notes.
Yeah.
And that's true. It was being filmed and recorded, and about a year later, with no connection really, we played Budokan, which is also filmed and recorded, and it was really the record company's idea to look at the two extremes of audience and release two DVDs instead of one, and just make the point that we're the same band, but every night we face a different audience, and these are two extreme examples. And I thought that was a kind of neat idea. I don't know anyone that's done that before.
No, it's a nice kind of bookend. But when you look at the discography of Deep Purple, these are going to be the 45th or 46th live releases. What is it about Deep Purple and the live show that is just so great that it gets captured over and over again?
Oof, you'd have to ask the people that are interested, really. I think there's obviously a high degree of musicianship involved with Purple. Always was. When I first joined the band in '69, I was just floored by Ritchie Blackmore, John Lord, and Ian Pace. Three absolutely genius musicians, masters of their instrument. I don't put myself in the same category. I'm much more of a songwriter than a bass player, but and certainly Ian and I came in as unvirtuously as they were virtuously, if that's such a word.
It is now.
I think maybe that was a magic combination because we brought a sort of certain simplicity and an honesty to it, and they brought the finesse and the brilliance, the instrumental brilliance. And they were always unpredictable. The band is more of a jazz band than it is a rock band in many ways.
Right.
And certainly when it comes to solos and stuff like that, we feed off each other and things go in different directions. And so there's a lot of unpredictability. And I think a lot of the early fans bought tons of bootlegs because they just, they knew that every show was going to be different to the last one. And, even for what Ian said in between songs was entertaining, and there's a certain honesty about us that we don't dress for the occasion, we don't sort of pose in certain ways, we don't have the big flash show with boardwalks and center stages and flying trapezes or whatever. It's just honest music, and maybe that's become a rarity these days. Lots of bands have great energy, but not necessarily the chops to be other than just a banging band. There's a lot more finesse in us than that, and maybe that's what it is. I really don't know. I'm happy that it is.
The last album that came out in 2013, Now What, was produced by Bob Ezrin, known for Alice Cooper, for Kiss, for The Wall with Pink Floyd. You have produced an incredible amount of albums as well. What was it like working with Bob? And as a producer yourself, do you learn anything from Bob? Do you teach anything to Bob? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Certainly I learned from Bob, and one of the things I learned is what we have in common as opposed to what we don't.
Right.
I'm very happy to have someone else producing. I don't like producing the band I'm in.
Right.
I've enjoyed I enjoy being in studios and doing that. Obviously, I do, but producing the band you're in is very difficult because they don't really listen to you. You
Right.
don't have that outside voice. And Bob's outside voice is great. He just cuts to the quick, saves hours, days, even weeks of deliberating about something. When he says, "Well, I like that idea, but let's do this," bang, and it takes seconds and it's done. So it's very efficient and productive that way. And I think I was draw the same parallel between when you're playing pool or you're playing some kind of game. The better your opponent, the better you play. And I think Bob has that quality he brought out. Because he was involved, I think we upped our game a bit as well, unconsciously. It's not something you think about. But he did give me the sort of respect of being a fellow producer, which was very nice and made me feel very comfortable. Often consulted me in his decisions, and I would have said the same thing. So, we agreed a lot, and it was a very, very pleasant experience. And yes, I learned a lot.
Yeah, and it was a great album.
You don't stop. You don't stop learning.
With the history of the band.
Yes, it is. It's an album that I'm very proud of. Actually, I think we wrote some great songs, and it sounds great. It just leaps out of the speakers at you.
Yeah, and that is definitely what he's
good
good for.
Very well.
With
number one all around Europe.
Yeah.
I said it was number one all around. So it was a very good album for us. It brought us a lot of joy.
And I want to ask you about that because you started in 1968. It's been many, many years that the band has been in existence. You can obviously go and tour with all the back catalog and Smoke on the Water and so on and so forth. What compelled you to make a new album, and why is it important as a musician to have something fresh to offer the audience?
Well, I think it keeps your audience and it grows your audience.
Right.
And we don't stop wanting to grow. And so certainly, we can play the old classics. I can say that now with pride. And for most of especially in Europe and other parts of the world, our audience is very young. The average age of the audience is somewhere around 20. There's lots of teenagers and kids come to our shows. So they're hearing those songs for the first time. So in a way, they become new again because you perform them and hear them through their ears. But we are songwriters. I mean, you don't stop doing what you do.
Right.
You just do it. And I think people say, "Oh, the album format is dead," and it probably is.
Right.
But not for us. I think if you're a band, you make your own rules. Or if you're an artist in general, you should make your own rules. Don't let other people make your rules for you. People say the album format is dead. So what? We're going to carry on making albums because we're an album band. That's how we define ourselves. And an album is really a kind of snapshot of the state of the band at that particular time, that particular year. And people kind of, the hardcore fans certainly are interested in that. And it's really as much for the fans as it is for us.
Yep.
I'm a fan myself, and when I hear something, when I first heard Chuck Berry, I went, "Oh, I want to hear more." So you delve into it and you get to the history and you hear more, and then you hear everything, and then you learn where he got it from, and you go back in time and listen to the old blues, and music's a kind of wonderful journey you can go on if you want.
It really is. If I
So
can,
albums are chapters in that book,
if I can ask you a few, from the past here, Ritchie Blackmore has recently said that he'd like to get back into, rock and roll and maybe do something with Rainbow. What was it like for you working with Ritchie in the past? And if he does do something with Rainbow, would you want to be involved? How do you see all of that?
Well, there's a lot of questions there.
Pick
Working
one.
with Ritchie is obviously probably the most important musician I ever worked with.
Right.
Alongside John Lorden and Ian Gillan and Ian Pace and so on.
Right.
And very influential, and certainly I wouldn't be here today without his input. And he was a brilliant guitarist, still is a brilliant guitarist. But more than that, he was an auteur, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
He wrote things in ways that other people hadn't.
Right.
And he attacked the guitar in other ways. He doesn't get his due, really, as an iconic guitar player. People talk about Beck and Clapton and stuff. Ritchie should right up there with them.
Oh, absolutely.
But in a way, maybe he's made himself that way because he's very single-minded. He works for himself, and if you're along with him for the ride, then you're privileged. But there's the point, he doesn't need you. He doesn't need you anymore. So we've had a few tough times with him, but we've also had some wonderful times with him.
Right.
And he made his decisions, and he left the band, and actually it was the best thing he could have done for the band. We thank him for that, because at that point it was an unhappy band, and it became a happy band again. So he left us to be what we were going to be, which was great. And he's doing what he wants to do, which is great. If he wants to start playing rock again, I think it would be one of the. I wouldn't doubt that it would be great, and I wish him luck. As far as a reunion of Rainbow is concerned, no, I wouldn't really be part of that. No, I'm too busy.
Yeah. I'm out in
He's the one. He's the one that made the decision. So I'm happy for him to go along and do what he wants to do.
And as it should be.
I wish him luck.
I'm out in Montreal, which is not too far from Le Studio in Morin Heights, where you did Rainbows Straight Between the Eyes. The studio is now in receivership. It's going up on the auction block. It's about to be sold. It's been a tragedy. Just for sort of the local perspective, what was it like working at Le Studio in Morin Heights? I mean, you had who else was there? Rush had been there. The Police had been there. Asia. What was it like for you making that album in that studio?
It was great. It was an opening door for me. I met Nick Blagona, the engineer there.
Yeah, great guy.
Lifelong friends. I've done a lot of work with him since. Funnily enough, you should ask that, because I'm in the middle of writing stories about my past and stuff like that.
Okay.
With the intention of sometime being a book, and I was thinking about that. In fact, I was writing one of Ritchie's practical jokes. He was a practical joker and did some wonderful ones. Some of the most memorable actually took place in the studio.
Okay.
And so I was writing about it. So I got on the old internet and I started looking at the studio, and what I saw shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there. It's just an empty building now. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I remember it as a thriving studio. So.
Yeah, I think it's actually on the auction block for like 18,000 Canadian dollars, which is really nothing. I mean, that's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a tragedy. Sin After Sin with Judas Priest in 1977, the third album. You go in there and produce it. What did you know about Priest going into that? What was sort of the concept for the album? Were they trying to be more heavy metal? Were they trying to be... Uh, what was that experience like working with Judas Priest? Because they were young and hungry at that time.
I don't think heavy metal was a word that was bandied around too much.
Right.
But certainly they were the sort of next wave after the sort of Sabbath, Purple, Zeppelin era. I was contacted to produce. I was, obviously out of Purple then. I was independently producing people. And I got the call to go down to Pinewood Studios to meet them, and I said, yeah, okay. So I remember going down to the rehearsal, and I won't go into the details, but basically they weren't very happy.
Right.
And so we went to the pub, and I bought them all a drink. I sat down. I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, we want to produce ourselves. I said, oh, so you don't want me to produce you? And they said, not really. This is the record company's forcing it. I said, well, sod it. I don't want to produce someone that doesn't want to be produced. What's the point in that? So you go and do what you want to do. And so I left the project.
Right.
Only to be called about a month or so later. Glenn Tipton in the studio. He said, would you come down and have a listen? We're in a bit of trouble. I said, well, what's happened? He said, we've been recording, but we fired the drummer, and we got a session drummer in.
Right.
And we don't have a lot of time left. Do you want to come down and help out? So I went down, and the drummer they'd hired was Simon Phillips, who's a friend of mine and a brilliant drummer.
Yes.
Not exactly a rock drummer by any means, although Simon probably can put his hand to anything. He's absolutely genius drummer. Anyway, I said, well, let's listen to what you've got so far, see if there's anything we can salvage. And I listened to it, and it wasn't salvageable. It just wasn't a great performance. So we basically started from scratch. They had the songs, so they didn't have to start writing whilst recording. They were ready to record.
Right.
And Simon just picked everything up very naturally and quickly. And we actually did it in 6 days. We only had 6 days left of studio time. And certainly I remember them very committed. They knew where they were going. I don't think they'd quite found it yet. I mean, listening to their output since that album, they changed quite considerably. They got a lot heavier and thicker and bigger and wider and everything bigger than everything else. But during Sin After Sin, they were still a bit contained, but they were like a tiger waiting to get out. And I listen to the album now, and I can hear the session drummer side of Simon. It's a tight, unechoed sound. It's quite dry. Whereas the later records, the drums became huge, the 80s and so on. But yeah, I look back at it with a lot of fondness. It was a great experience.
Ian, your singer, one of the greatest rock voices in the history of rock. 1983, he runs off and does Born Again with Black Sabbath. Now, of course, the band wasn't really doing much at that time, if anything, quite frankly. What was it like for you when you first heard him doing Smoke on the Water with Tony Iommi? And what was that sort of reaction when he said, "Whoops, I'm off to join Black Sabbath," or when you read about it in Melody Maker or whatever? What was that time like?
Well, we knew he was going to do that because
right.
in '83 he contacted Ritchie and I. Ritchie and I were in Rainbow at the time.
Right.
And Rainbow was a sort of American-based, and the other three, John and Pacey and Ian Gillan, were based in England still. So there was a kind of a divide between us. And with Rainbow, we were happily going along with this sort of, doing pretty good.
Yes, absolutely.
And Ian contacted us, and he came over. He said, "I want to talk to you." And we met him, and had a meal. He said, "I've been talking to John and Pacey, and they would be up for getting together again if you are, you know. And, anyway, Ritchie and I didn't go for it for various reasons, and we said, and Ian told us then, he said, well, because if you don't do it, I need to know now because I've had an offer to join Black Sabbath. And so he said, well, well, fair enough, but we're kind of happy where we are at the moment. We don't need a Pearl reunion had been rumored for years.
Yes.
Lots of stories about it. And we just wanted to avoid that for whatever reason. We had our own career going. Anyway, so he joined Black Sabbath, and actually I've never heard him sing Smoke in the Water with Black Sabbath. I listened to a few bits of the album,
right.
And just mostly to hear what Ian was singing and what he was singing about, because that's always interesting. But it wasn't. I don't know the album particularly well. I don't have any feelings one way or another. And almost exactly a year later, he called up again and said, "Do you want to reconsider?" So we did.
And the rest is history.
That's that.
Speaking of history, the band's had this incredible history, right? Like I said, I was born in '68. The band was born in '68. 46 years of great music, and then this little place in Cleveland called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ignores you, pretends you don't exist. Is that frustrating, or is it like, who cares? It's like a McDonald's. Somebody opened up a franchise and threw some trinkets in there and called it a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, how does that affect you or bother you?
Not at all, really. I mean, it's how can I say this? If you'd asked me 40 years ago if I wanted to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'd go, "Oh gosh, what a dream!" But now that it's being bandied about, as they say, it's not a dream anymore. It's actually a bit of an irritation.
Yeah.
First of all, it's an American thing. It doesn't seem to be worldwide. Politically, it's American, and and people say to me the same thing that you've just said. Why the hell aren't you in there? And I can't answer them. It's not up to us. We can't invite ourselves. And I can see that people getting really pissed off about it. Like, Lars Ulrich and Metallica going on about it, and various other people. And if quite frankly, if they should have done it 20 years ago when John Lord was still alive, and would have, it would have been nice to do that.
Absolutely.
Now if it happens or not, we don't actually care. That's really where it's at. I think it's more important to our fans and maybe our family than it is to us in the band. If they do it, they do it. If they don't, they don't. We actually don't give a shit.
Yeah, and quite frankly, as a fan...
In fact, sometimes I think I sometimes have the feeling that we should just tell them to shove it. We'd probably get a lot of publicity for that. But we're not that kind of band yet.
Yeah, and I got to say...
Who knows? Who knows? It's not important. That's the point.
As a fan myself, I like to refer to it as the Hall of Shame. I don't really... It doesn't dictate to me whether I should like Deep Purple or Cheap Trick or any of these bands that they've overlooked, because it really doesn't make a difference. Let me just finish this, because I think we had 20 minutes and we're just about done. From the Setting Sun in Wacken, you had Uli John Roth come in and guest on Smoke on the Water. What was it like working with Uli, even though if it's just that one track? One of the great guitarists of our time.
He's lovely. He's great. We all love Uli. It's just his character, that wasn't planned. He just happened to be there, and we're friends, and so he got up. What's it like working with him? He's always off on some other planet when he's playing. He's wonderful to watch. But that certainly wasn't planned, and we've worked with him other times, and we've worked with other guitarists doing the same thing. And it's really off the cuff, and I think there were a few technical problems there, but it's interesting.
Yeah, he's a great guitarist, and of course,
he is a great guitar.
The track itself, "Smoke on the Water," a little bit about that. That track, as everybody knows, is the one that all guitarists start playing. When you first sat down in the studio back in what was it, 71 or 72, and you start playing around with this song. Uh, did you get, a tingle up the spine and just went, oof, boy, we've got something here. This is better than just good. This is beyond. What was that like?
There's nothing like that.
No?
Um, well, the circumstances under which it was recorded are pretty strange. I'm not going to go into the fire story, but I think most people know that by now.
Mm-hmm.
But after the fire, about 2 days after the fire, I woke up with these words on my lips. I just said it out loud to an empty room: smoke in the water. And then I kind of woke up and said, I just said something. What was it? Smoke in the water. Yeah. And that was it. Didn't think much more about it. Claude Nobbs, who was helping us to sort things out, got us a theatre close by in which we could start recording. So we set up our stuff there during the day, and sometime late in the evening, we just had a jam,
right,
just to test the mics and make sure everything's all right. And Ritchie started playing this riff, mid-tempo, plodder, and we all sort of joined in, and yeah, it's not bad. I mean, how about if we put a verse there? It fell together in a few seconds, and by the time we were doing the first serious take of it, after we'd worked out this arrangement, which took us all of about 15 minutes, we recorded it. But what we didn't know is it was around about midnight, and the police were trying to get in the door to stop us because we were keeping the town awake. So we had to abandon that. That was obviously unfeasible to work there. And then there was a desperate search for somewhere to record. We had the studio, we had our gear, we had everything there, but we didn't have the place.
Right.
It's very hard to find a place to make loud music late at night. And eventually we found this hotel, the Grand Hotel, which was closed for the season. But we figured, if we got a carpenter in, put up a bit of a wall there, use some of the mattresses up, and we'd make a place. And it was relatively isolated. We could actually make some noise later into the night, and it wouldn't bother people. And so we started in earnest there, and now we didn't have a lot of time left. So we went on with Highway Star and Lazy and Pictures of Home, Bimbledale, banged them out fairly quickly. And then I think we only had a day left or something like that, and we were a song short.
Right.
What about that song, that jam we did in that other place? So we'd listen to it. It's not bad. And I recalled that title that I'd had 3 weeks earlier, Smoke on the Water. And Ian and I sat down and we thought, well, let's write it about what happened to us. And that's what we did. It's very literal.
Yep.
But it certainly wasn't what we thought it was going to be. We put a lot of energy into a song called Never Before,
right,
which we thought was going to be the hit, which it wasn't. So Smoke on the Water was an afterthought, and certainly not recognized by us as a hit, let alone what it's become. It's more than a hit. It's become, a sort of...
Well, it's iconic.
Icon of our life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny how some...
And I recognize now the strength of that riff, by the way.
Yep.
I recognize the fact that although it's simple, it's unlike anything else, and that's the magic of it.
Yeah, there's a great, the serendipity in rock is one of the greatest things, because you can get these moments that you just can't recreate. There's a magic. And I'll end on this question. I forgot I had one more. David Coverdale, Whitesnake, recently released the Purple album, where they took back some of the Purple songs that he had been involved with. Did you have a chance to hear that album? And if so, what do you think of that project that he put together?
Well, I didn't hear the album.
Okay.
I don't have the album, but I did. I think the first track that they did, Burn. I think it might have been
Burn. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's very slick, very television friendly.
Yep.
Very generic rock, if you like.
Okay.
Rock's become very generic as everyone plays the same thing, and nothing wrong with the musicians. I mean, they're great musicians he's got, and he's got a great voice. I don't have feelings one way or another about it, really. It's just, if he wants to do it, he wants to do it. We actually did one ourselves. We were playing Bloodsucker many years ago, which is from in rock, and a lot of people came up to me and said, "Oh, I love the new song." So what if I think it's a new song? Let's do a new version of it, which we did. Which, you know, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's only one. Doing a whole album of stuff. I don't know. I have no feelings, really. Yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah, good luck to him. Roger, absolute pleasure. Very much looking forward to the From the Setting Sun and Wacken, and of course to the Rising Sun in Tokyo. Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Not at all. Thank you. Nice talking to you, and thanks for your help and your interest.
Thank you. Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.
There you have it, folks. My interview with Roger Glover of Deep Purple. The new albums, I should say, are From the Setting Sun in Wacken and To the Rising Sun in Tokyo. Both available as DVD, Blu-ray, CD packages coming out September 18th. Tommy, you actually, with Alice, had a chance to do a live at Wacken collection, also called Raise the Dead. What's so special about Wacken, as they like to say?
Well, the crowd
Yeah.
and the whole scene there is like, it's such a cool place to be. The way they have it set up, it's amazing. And it was really great because I finally got a chance to mix like the live record and put the whole thing together, and it was really nice. And that, I'm really proud of that record. That came out really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a great collection. I mean, pretty much, in my opinion, anytime Alice does anything, I'm all in. I mean, he's just a talented guy, and one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Speaking of nice people, you told me a story about the new Hollywood Vampires album. You have a song on there, 5-1 Break On Through with Robbie Krieger of The Doors. Tell me a little bit about that story, if you don't mind sharing.
It's a great story because when Robbie Krieger walked in, you know, when you get all these like iconic figures walking through the door that you grew up listening to, it's just really cool when you actually finally meet them and then you work with them. So he comes in and we're doing 5-1, and but he comes in. Let me backtrack. So he comes into Johnny's house. Now Johnny's house is like, I don't know, a museum of vintage guitars. Like each guitar is worth. Cheapest guitar he's probably got in his house is like probably $5,000, but most of them are like $10,000, $30,000, you know, $100,000. And he's got a Les Paul that's worth $500,000.
Wow.
So
we're talking Johnny Depp, of course, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry. So Robbie comes in. He says, "Hey Johnny, can I check out some of your guitars? I want to play one of them." So Johnny's like, "Yeah, check them out." So I have my guitar there, which is like this 1962 SG Junior, which I think I paid like $2,500 for, but it's probably worth like $4,000, whatever. So Robbie's checking out like 15 guitars. He's picking them off, all the priceless guitars. And Johnny's like, "Oh, it's cool." So then he looks over and he picks up my guitar out of all these guitars in this Johnny's house. So he picks it up and he says, "Yeah, this is the one." And Depp looks at me and goes, "Wow." And I was like, "Oh, all right." So he plays 5-1 with my guitar. And then he does like Break On Through. And just watching him play is amazing, and he's playing my guitar, which is even cooler. So after he gets done playing the tracks, he looks over, and you got Shep Gordon, Bob Ezrin, Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp, and I don't know if Phil Perry was there. I don't think he was, but it was just those four guys. So Robbie looks over and says, I want to buy this guitar. Can I buy this?" So then I got these guys looking at me like, "What are you going to do, Tommy?" And I'm like,
"That's great."
"Really?" So I look at Robbie, and I said, "You know what, Robbie? You can keep my guitar, man. Have it." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, don't worry, man. Cool." So, and I'm the type of guy, I don't expect nothing, man. I'm not selfish. I'm always out trying to do the right thing. And I don't give a crap about stuff, you know?
Right.
So I walk away thinking, all right, cool. I just lost a great guitar, but it went to Robbie Krieger, you know?
Right.
So the next day, Robbie comes in and we're doing Jump Into the Fire, you know what I mean? The Harry Nelson song.
Yep.
So anyway, so he's doing a slide solo on there, you know, and he brings in all these other guitars and that. So he's playing my guitar again, and he's playing his guitars. So after that song was done, he walks into the other room and says, "Hey, Tommy, come on in here. I got something for you." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I walk in there, and he hands me his guitar. his Gibson SG and says, "I want you to have this guitar." And I was like, "Robbie, I can't take that." You know, I really, Johnny Depp's looking at me going, take it, like under his breath. He's giving me the eye, Johnny, like, take the guitar. So I took the guitar, and then he signed it, and then it was really cool because Johnny was like, "Dude, get a picture with him. I'm jealous. I wanted to take my." So it was really cool. So we took a picture, and that was like one of the best moments, you know, highlight for me on the Hollywood Vampire record, you know. And there's a lot of highlights, but that was one of those moments where you go, that was pretty cool, man. He didn't have to do that either, you know.
Oh, that's great. That's definitely a picture you should tweet out or stick on Facebook or something. But
I had it on Facebook, I think. I
did
think
you?
I might have.
Oh,
Yeah, I have to go back and look at it. I'll send it to you. It's pretty cool.
oh, I missed it. I'll go back and check it out. Is that a guitar that you put up on your wall, or is that one you're going to tour with?
That guitar is in my storage unit right now. I haven't seen it because I had to move all my stuff, you know, in my studio.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, so that I haven't even seen it since the day he gave it to me. It's in the locker.
Wow. Now the Hollywood Vampire stuff. Just before we get back to Roger and Deep Purple, Joe Perry from Aerosmith is on there. Paul McCartney. Hello, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney. You know, you've got some of the original Alice Cooper band guys. Boy, Johnny Depp. You know, Bob Ezrin, of course, is producing. What an album! I mean, and you brought back Kip Winger, which I think is cool as a fan to see some of the older stock Cooper band guys come back in. That's just great. Wow, Dave Grohl.
Yeah, Dave Grohl. Dude, there was a lot of Joe Walsh. Trying to think. There's a bunch of people that contributed to the record.
I guess. Yeah, I was just going to say the one question I guess people are going to have is why is it not called Alice Cooper? You know, the Hollywood Vampire album by Alice Cooper. You know, why this Hollywood Vampires name? Do you know?
Because Alice didn't want to make it an Alice Cooper band. He wanted to make it a Hollywood Vampire band. You know what I mean? Like he being the singer of the Hollywood Vampires as opposed to being Alice Cooper the act. You know what I mean? Because it's him and Johnny's band and Joe Perry, you know, and which is cool. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I'm just fortunate enough to be part of it. You know what I mean? And and it's been really cool for me. You know, so we've all done a lot of cool stuff with it and stuff like that. And we wrote some like really great originals. Like the cool thing about it was we wrote like 5 originals, and I only think 2 are on the record.
Yeah.
Like Raise the Dead, Johnny had this riff that I was like, dude, we got to do something with that. And this guy Bruce Whitkin too, who's Johnny's like his guy. And we sat there and we would just come up with all these riffs, and Johnny came up with a lot of stuff, man. And then we went and tracked everything in the studio, you know what I mean? In LA, it was the band. It was the Alice Cooper band tracking the stuff, you know what I mean? It was Glenn on drums, me on guitar, Chuck on bass, Bruce was playing guitar, and Johnny was playing guitar. We laid all the basic foundation down for all of that stuff.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that there was 5 originals, only 2. What happens to the other 3? Is there a Hollywood Vampires album number 2 coming, or do they?
I have no idea. You know, like the other 3 songs, you know, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen with them, but they were also really, really, like when we did My Dead Drunk Friends, that was like one of those funny songs. You know what I mean? We're in the studio.
Oh, typical Alice Cooper song.
Yeah, and it was really cool. That one, how it took on the life, you know, where it started from, and then it ended up, you know. Yeah. But the other ones, I don't know. We'll find out. You know what I mean? Who knows?
And I'll ask you this: the album has 14 tracks in North America. In Japan, there's 15, with The Who's "I'm a Boy" being added as a bonus track. How many other sort of covers were there? Were there like 16 covers done, or were there like 25 done? And there's a bunch.
There was a lot of covers, Mitch. There was a lot of covers that were done. You know what I mean? So this, you know, I don't know where they're all going to wind up, but I would imagine, you know what I mean, they'll probably wind up somewhere. You know?
Oh, good. So part 2, definitely, hopefully coming. Roger, in terms of a bass player, big influence for you?
Roger Glover, dude, another guy who's like one of those guys, you know, doesn't get enough credit. You know, Roger Glover is more than a bass player. He's a guy who, is like a producer and he's a songwriter and,
Yep.
he knows, and the tone and everything that he's done. And he's the coolest dude ever. And he lives 20 minutes from me in Switzerland, which is really funny,
Yeah. Do you ever hang out or bump into him at the local, Ralph's supermarket or whatever they have in Switzerland?
No, it's usually at the airport.
Oh,
I'll
there you
see him. I'll see Justin Hawkins from, the Darkness, because he lived there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I'll bump into him. I'll bump into the guys from Crocus. You know what I mean? I see Mark a lot. I hang out with Mark a lot. That guy sings amazing still. I'm trying to get Mark Glover and myself to do something. You know what I mean? Like just do something fun.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to put something together. Every time I go back, I'm like, come on, guys, let's do something.
And in Switzerland, you must also see the guys from Gothard quite a bit.
I've seen those guys around. I'm not really friends with those guys, but
they're a great band. Great Swiss band.
Great, yeah. Very good band. You know what I mean? And the only other band I ever get, like I just saw Kiss in Switzerland with that, and that was like really cool.
Well, on the day that we're recording this, this is the actual, I'm trying to think quickly, August 6, 1979 was the first time I saw Kiss. So what does that make it? 36. This is my 36th anniversary of my first show ever. So there you go.
Dude, so you saw Kiss on the Dynasty tour then?
You bet.
That's my first Kiss show too. My first concert ever though was Van Halen, Black Sabbath.
Oofa.
78.
Yeah. Whoa. That's a lineup, though. Wow. With Sabbath and Halen?
Let me bring it back even more. My first show was, I think, 77, the Ramones, free concert in Central Park. And then 78, that's when I saw Van Halen, Sabbath. And 79, I saw Kiss on the Dynasty tour.
Who was opening for Kiss for you? I had New England, but I know Judas Priest opened a few dates.
It was New England because I worked with Hirsch Gardner years later, the drummer from New England. It's just funny how all of a sudden all of this stuff happens,
That's 6 degrees of separation. Now, my second show ever was again Kiss, and it was July 25th, 1980 at the Palladium in New York with Eric Carr opening up. So it's celebrating 35 years, a little more than 35 years since I first saw that. You're in that New York area, or I think you were back then. Did you get a chance to see the Palladium show as well?
No, I didn't see. I saw Twisted Sister at the Palladium before they even had a record deal. Wow. So, yeah.
When would that be? Because they had a record deal.
I'm trying to think. That had to be like, this is when they were just doing like. Was
that like 77, 78? Earlier?
It's got to be around there. Yeah, I was like a little kid.
Wow. A lot of great bands went. Is that, by the way, is the Palladium still there?
I don't know. It's like I haven't been in New York, you know what I mean, enough to know what's still up and around. But there was so many great bands. Like there was this one band, like you had Rat Race Choir, you had Good Rats.
Mm-hmm. The Good Rats.
Zebra,
Good Rats had Bruce Kulick though, didn't they?
What's that?
Didn't Good Rats have Bruce Kulick in it?
Yes.
The pre-Kiss Bruce Kulick. There you go. Wow. What else?
I think so. I think Bruce, because I remember it was the Marcello brothers and stuff like that, and Joe Franco who plays with Dee Schneider. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Joe Franco's like amazing drummer too. You know what I mean? There's like so many amazing bands. Like when I grew up in Long Island, like this guy named George Cintron was great. Tony Bruno, he had a band called Swift Kick. He went on to do a bunch of like really great stuff. And also, I love this band Vixen. They were like this new wave band with the first guy I ever saw with Vixen was this guy named Billy Bang Douglas. You know what I mean? He was like a rock star, that dude, and that band was amazing.
Vixen, though, not the old girl group from the 80s.
No, this is before the girl group. This is like they were like a new wave-ish. This guy George Deanna, the bass player, and Ernie Lake, the drummer. They were just amazing, those guys. And I think my buddy Joey Sykes played with them, and they had a bunch of other guitar players, but those were guys with the nucleus of the band. But that band was a great fucking band.
What great memories. And I've got an episode coming up with Bob Kulick that I hope everybody checks out, talking all about.
Cool. Bob's great, man. Skull.
And of course all the Kiss stuff that he's done too, right? So
I know. Yeah.
Gotta talk about that. Now, online, folks can find you at TommyHenriksen.net. Anywhere else?
Well, I can't buy TommyHenriksen.com because some guy wants to sell it to me. He wants a ridiculous amount of money. I'm like, guy, really? You know, it's just unbelievable.
You gotta love
But,
squatters.
you know, and yeah, that's where you can find me, or on Facebook, you know, Tommy Henriksen Facebook, whatever it is, official fan page or whatever. I don't know. It's funny because I don't really keep up. Like, I'll go on, I'll post things every once in a while, but I'm not like one of those guys who's always like, hey, look at me, look at me. Because honestly, I give two shits. You know what I mean? I just want to just fucking make music, you know, and just do the right thing, man. That's what I always say. Just do the right thing by people, you know?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I want to do. Just be fucking cool. Be cool with the fans. I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm thankful that I could still do this. I'm thankful that I'm healthy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get on some Jesus trip because I'm not like that. But you know what, man? You got to look at your life sometimes and go, shit, this could be a lot worse, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what I would say,
listen,
man.
being in the Alice Cooper group is definitely not a bad thing. And I don't just mean because, oh, it's Alice Cooper and I'm a fan of him. Just the way he treats people in the business sense and the way he treats media, just exceptionally nice. I mean, unless I've gotten it wrong, he's just very courteous, very kind.
Yeah.
You could, I mean, there's no drama as far as I can tell.
No,
So, I mean, how
never.
blessed is that?
Let me tell you something, man. I'll tell you the truth. And that guy, he's in the same mood every day.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around this guy for over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I've never seen him ever get pissed unless he couldn't go to the movies.
Or if a golf game gets rained out or something, right?
Yeah, you know, but he really is like that. He's the nicest guy, and he's like, to be in a band with him is just amazing because it's like, I'll look over him sometimes, and I'll be on stage and we'll be doing like Under My Wheels or 18 or Billy, and I'll just look over like, oh fuck,
yeah,
there's Alice. You know what I mean? And you get those glimpses where you go, it's pretty cool, man. You know, and the band, that's the other thing too. The Alice Cooper band, you know what I mean, or whatever you want to call it, because some people, that's not the Alice Cooper band, whatever it is. But the band itself, like everyone in this band is just really, really great people. I mean, Chuck's been in the band seriously for like, I don't know, 14 years or something.
Right.
And, you know, Ryan's been in the band longer than him, but in and out, you know.
Yeah.
And then with Glenn's a fantastic drummer. Ryan's a great player. Chuck's a great player. I mean, Nita's fitting in great. I mean, she's been really great.
Yeah.
And everyone just gets along really well, which is really, you know, and it makes your life easier when you're on a bus with people and everyone genuinely likes to hang out with everyone and get along, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And from the media side of stuff, when you get an interview with Alice or you're invited to a show, it's just always first class. There's no jerking you around. There's no stand outside here for half an hour, we'll come and get you, or I phoned late for the interview. It's always very precise, right on, and just always, it's just super pro all the time, and that's just so appreciated. I mean, honestly, it's you can't be better than that. And I guess we'll finish on this opening for Motley Crue. Show's coming to Montreal August 24th. How is that to open for the Crue on this final sort of farewell to everything tour?
You know, it's funny. No one knows this. I was in a band called Rough Cut, like this band Rough Cut from New York, not the LA one.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a pretty big following. And we were doing a Motley Crue show back in like 1984. We would do this Motley Crue show.
Right.
And it was before tribute bands. And I was trying to tell Nikki and Mick that, you know what I mean? I was like, guys, listen, you know, this guy in Big Metro used to work for those guys, and he's the one who turned me on to Motley Crue. And I tell Nikki and Mick, I was like, we used to play your songs all the time. You know, we probably helped you guys sell a lot of records too, but which is really funny. But we used to do this back in the day. And the other thing, it's like just being on tour with those guys. You know, I've been a Motley Crue fan. You know what I mean? Like from Shout at the Devil, Too Fast for Love. You know what I mean?
Shout at the Devil, best album. Their best album.
It's my favorite record.
Yep,
you
absolutely.
Know? And then to get a chance to also, you know what I mean? Because I'm producing Mick Mars' solo record. I don't know if you even knew that.
Yeah, actually, I did, but I forgot. But yeah, I read about that on Brave Words and Blabbermouth and all those places. Yes.
Yeah, and we've come up with, me and Mick, we've got like a bunch of material, but I got to tell you, we finished like 5 songs already for the record. And when you hear this record, like, and I'm not just talking bullshit or whatever. Mick Mars, dude, he's another guy. Doesn't sound like anyone. You know, when you hear him play, you go, that's got to be Mick Mars. His tone is sick. The songs that we've been coming up with and the riffs, dude, are so brutal and heavy. Like when people hear this, they're going to go, I really can't say anything but all I can tell you is that they won't be disappointed in the record that we're making for Mick, because it's going to be the record that Motley Crue fans want to hear. That's all I got to say.
Who is going to be singing on that?
We've got a bunch of people right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like Mick, we'll figure it out. But right now, like the songs that we have, you know what I mean? It all depends on how Mick wants to handle it. That's one of those things that's still up in the air. You know what I mean? Like the whole idea when we got together was like, let's just write the songs first, and then we'll figure out, you know, who's going to sing them. You know?
Yeah.
So
since you did this Motley stuff back in the early '80s, let's say Mick Mars gets stuck at the airport and can't make it out to a show. Can you step in and play the set, or a little rusty at this point?
I can play most of the songs, put it that way. But he ain't going to get stuck.
No,
Mick, I'll tell you, man, that guy, he's not, like everyone says, his health. Yeah, he's got issues and stuff like that, but that guy's ready to go. He wants to tour with this thing, you know what I mean? So when you read stuff that's like Motley Crue's not touring because of Mick, that's a bunch of bullshit, you know what I mean? Mick's ready to go, you know? So that's the thing that Mick tells me. He's like, I want to tour this thing. I want to make a record. I want to get this thing rolling. I mean, it was cool because when we put this whole thing together, I said to Mick, I was like, I got Michael Wagner. Mick was like, I haven't seen him in like 40 years since he did the first Motley Crue thing. And I called Wagner and I was like, you want to do this thing with me? He's like, I'd love to do this. So it all came together. It was really cool working with Michael and Mick in the studio and putting this whole thing together. You know what I mean? But I really think Motley Crue fans are going to be really happy and surprised when they hear this stuff, because it sounds heavy and it's exactly, as a Motley Crue fan, me, it's what I want to hear. Because I told Mick, I was like, I'm a Motley Crue fan. I want to hear a certain thing, you know what I mean? And Mick, dude, it's just amazing. That's all I got to say. I'm very happy with that stuff.
You know, it is funny as you get older and you know, when you're a fan, you go, oh, I want to hear the new album and the new album and the new album. And then when you get to a certain age, you go, you know what? If they just did Shout of the Devil 20 times, I would have been happy.
Yeah.
There's a sound of a band, whether it's AC/DC or Kiss or, you know, hey, not Detroit Rock said Destroyer. Had they done Destroyer 10 times over, you go, yeah, I could live with that. I don't need new sounds and go discover yourself. Leave that for you too. Just be Kiss.
Mitch,
just be Motley.
This is what's cool about Mick. Like, Mick has riffs on cassette tapes from like years ago.
Wow.
Like, he'll just be playing. So I'll be like, dude, that one right there. And then I'll go to his studio and he'll have all of these riffs like on his Pro Tools rig, and he'll be playing. I'm like, dude, we got to do that. I was like, give me that one. And then I'll come back and then me and him will work on it again. And it, when you hear it, it's like, that's why I tell him, it's like Motley Crue meets like 9 Inch Nails. You know what I mean? That's what's cool. It's heavy, you know?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to seeing who the singers are going to be too.
Yeah, and the songs are great. That's the cool thing about it. Like, there's songs where you go, that's cool. And there's like big songs, like big rock anthems, dude. It's heavy. That's what I got to say. It's like heavy rock. It's exactly what it is. You know, it's heavy rock. You know what I mean? And it's Mick Mars, and it's exactly what you can expect from Mick. It's going to be brutal.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe Alice will join and do one song. I'm trying to think who's sort of the best rock vocalist right now.
Alice wants to do a couple tracks with Mick. You know what I mean? So it all depends on how Mick wants to proceed with it. You know what I mean? I'm just, even though however he wants to do it, you know what I mean? Even though we're on the road right now, it's really hard to get together because, you know, we're always traveling, staying at different hotels and stuff like that. But we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? But the cool thing is I have my rig on the road with me. You know, we're working on another Alice Cooper record, you know what I mean? Another thing, too, like as the band, we're going to do a record ourselves, you know, and we're starting to put all that stuff together, and we're just recording it on the road, which is really fun. I have my rig out here. Chuck's got his rig. Ryan's got a rig. Nita's got a rig. So we just pass it back and forth, you know?
That's great. And of course, the Alice Cooper band now with, like you said, Chuck and Ryan and Glenn and Nita and yourself, one of the best bands that Alice has put together. Not to put down any of the other lineups, but you guys together just sound huge. It just sounds, maybe the word is authentic. It just sounds right. It's great. It's really great.
You know what, Mitch, and you know what else? Because I got to tell you, me and Ryan, well, first it started with Hunter, when Steve Hunter was in the band. Like, I learned so much from Steve Hunter of guitar, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I learned all the parts. Like, Steve was like, let's do all the right parts. And there was this guy, Brent, who helped me out. Because I said when I first joined the band with Bob, I was like, I want to honor the guitar parts the way they were on the record. I want to play them like Glenn Buxton and Michael Bruce, you know what I mean? And Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter. I don't want to play them like whoever else was before me, because it's all changed. And that's when we went back to the original recording and stuff like that and really learned them. And then when Ryan joined the band, me and him really did it even more so, where we shed it. Then we got Orion, and that came together at the right parts. Then when Nita came in, we've defined it again. So we're always defining this stuff, because it's like, I just want the Alice Cooper fans, just for Alice Cooper's brand, I want it to be, honored like the right way, you know what I mean? And that's my whole point of this thing. Is like, playing with Alice, I just want it to be done right, you know what I mean? Like, our tones have the classic rock sounds, Marshalls and Les Pauls or SGs, and stuff like that, and just play it the right way, the way it was meant to be. That's it, and sing it. So that's my goal. Every show we do, I'm like, if we can make a show without anything breaking and we'll play the stuff, great. I had a good show,
Yeah, and that's the other thing. When I was talking about, Alice Cooper being professional, the shows are always very professional. They try to please the fans as much as possible. I mean, it's just the whole vibe that comes from that camp is great. And thank you.
It is, and I got to tell you, Mitch. The other thing is, he doesn't even drink water during the show. Sometimes I look over like, Alice, man, just have a sip of water, because there's no breaks in the show. Like, for a drummer, it's a hard gig, because we play a lot. Alice is playing like 5 nights a week, sometimes 6.
Yep.
And he never stops. And the drummer, to be a drummer in the Alice Cooper band, it's pretty tough, because you really don't have any breaks. Like, I'll look over at Glenn, he'll do his drum solo. The only time you have a break is when we play like an intro, you know what I mean? Because there's no pre-recorded music. We don't play the tapes. Everything you see with us is live. So when it's out of tune or sharp, that's us, And the only pre-recorded stuff you'll hear is like an intro, you know what I mean, of like Frankenstein or Stupid, or like Dwight Fry, where we have like little segues and stuff to give us like 30 seconds breaks to drink some water or something, Well,
I was just going to say that's the one thing about, I was speaking to a couple of the Alice Cooper guitarists back in the day, Jason Hook, Dick Wagner, and so on and so forth. Yep. And they've all said, bar none, that it's one of the toughest gigs they have, because they don't realize that while Alice is doing a costume change or getting the guillotine or whatever ready, there's a musical thing going on. And, it's not necessarily a guitar solo, but there's something going on. The music is still going, so you don't get to take a break. You're always there. And it's like, huh. And, a lot of the guys say, I wasn't expecting that. I'm so tired after 75 minutes. It's unbelievable.
Dude, when we do 90 minutes, Mitch, we're playing with Motley Crue, we're doing like 50 minutes.
Right.
I mean, Alice isn't even breaking a sweat yet. You know what I mean? Like, we get up there and we're like, all right, wow, we're just getting warmed up, because normally we used to play like 90 minutes.
Yep.
So we're playing 50 minutes. It's like, this is like,
it's a vacation.
I'm not going to say, it's actually kind of fun for us, because we get up there, we get to play the hits, and we're out,
Ah. Get all loosey-goosey, and then you're out and you can go enjoy the night. But there you go. Tommy, always a pleasure. Very much looking forward to the show in Montreal, and pretty much any Alice Cooper show that I can get my derriere to, because it is always a good time. And
thanks for having me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to everyone out there listening and stuff like that. It's all Mitch Lafon. That's all I have to say.
And I'm going to say, Tommy, head over to Amazon or Spotify or any place. Look up the album. Listen, you're not going to be disappointed. It is a fun, what do you call it? Rock pop kind of album?
It's like rock, electronic, pop, punk. You know what I mean? It's got everything in there. You know what I mean?
It's fun.
It's got Iggy Pop. I just like, there's so many Iggy Pop things on here. When I was making, I would laugh. I'd be like, oh, it's so Iggy Pop. I love it. You know what I mean? So anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you very much, man.